Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Secret Services Celebrity Psychic Readings. I'm going to be your reader for today, Quintari Shakir. Please make sure to like, share, and comment on my video. Please subscribe to my channel as well. If you can't get enough of my videos, please go to patreon.com/Black Spectrum Network, because that's where you get exclusive videos on the Black community, exclusive videos on social issues, exclusive videos about horoscopes, and exclusive videos about spiritual enlightenment. Okay. And just for $2 a month, you can receive videos from this channel up to a week early. Okay. In addition to that, I know that things are running a little bit differently with the sound. I have a microphone now. I'm going to be holding it in my hand throughout the reading. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get into the Joe Jackson reading. So I'm going to first do a reading on his personality. I'm going to shuffle my cards. Hold on one second. All right, so we're going to do the personality reading on Joe Jackson. The first card that came out is the mediator card. This is speaking not about him being able to mediate conflict between people, but this is speaking about him having a gift for negotiating fair business deals, him being strategic in who he chooses to deal with on a personal level. So he doesn't have friends. He is someone that he has people that he does business with. And if you don't do business with him, then you're definitely not his friend. And his loyalty to you is always going to be business related. In addition to that, he is someone that he respects the loan shark. He respects the loan shark. He respects the small businessman. He respects the billionaire. But he respects all of these people because he himself could be the loan shark. He himself could be the entrepreneur. He could be Sally Mae. But with all that being said, that's just to indicate that his personality always, within his personality, he has a hidden agenda whenever he's trying to build a partnership with someone. The next card is speaking about Joe Jackson having an intimate connection with the divine. So Joe Jackson is very intuitive. I'm hearing that in his ancestry that they are very anointed. I'm hearing that Joe Jackson's bloodline is anointed. I'm hearing that Joe Jackson himself is very talented, a perfectionist. And I'm hearing that he has a lot of male ancestors that speak to him. And these energies that I'm seeing are very tall, jet black skin entities. There are about 6 of them that walk with him, and they give him information about they give him lots of information about music, lots of information about business, lots of information about his health, lots and lots of information about relationships and himself. So I find that his dream, I feel like his dreams when he was alive in this lifetime were incredibly vivid, and he was able to pretty much relay to his children what his vision for their worlds would look like. I then get the card for gossip, and this talks about Joe Jackson having a penchant for telling people's business and getting into shit. Okay, so it also speaks about people wanting to trust him, and wanting to really believe that he has their best interest in his heart, but truthfully, Joe Jackson will collect information about you. And again, if you're not his business partner, you're not his friend. So if he's collecting information about you, it's for the purpose of doing business. And if you're not his business partner, you're not his friend. And if you're, chummy with him, you can expect for your business to end up on Front Street, or you could expect your personal matters to end up in the wrong hands, such as the media. And that could be used to take you out in order to ensure that he or his successors can dominate in whatever industry that is. That's his way of taking out the competition. I get the card for the hedonist, which speaks about him enjoying, he enjoys celebrating himself. He thought he was very attractive, thought he was very, very handsome. He's also he's one of those men that he's one of those men that he thinks he's pretty, and he had issues with other men that were intimidated by how attractive he was. With that being said, Joe Jackson will respond to this intimidation by further leaning into his sensuality and that creative energy, embracing like I'm hearing like he enjoyed cheeses, good wines, drugs, women, nice cars, a very lavish lifestyle. But he, pursued those pleasures largely to the detriment of his sanity and his humanity. So he found himself constantly in some drama. The reason he was in drama was because he was pursuing, a base desire, or he was trying to satisfy vice desires, or it was for him, it was about, pursuing this pleasure for the purpose of establishing a really good business deal. You know what I mean? So he ended up always getting himself, into some shit, and here's the other thing. A lot of the times when he would pursue his personal desires and personal interests, it would come at the expense of other people. It would get, it was a domino effect. This didn't just affect, the spillover with, if he was in the media, his children were in the media. Okay. Let's put it that way. I get the card for the gambler, and this is speaking about Joe Jackson really being a risk taker. And I mean, he's a risk taker, not just in the music business, but he was a risk taker sexually. He was a risk taker in definitely with the sex. I'm very, and it's like, there's a lot of, in terms of Joe Jackson and sex and this gambler's card right here that you all see. This is specifically telling me that some of the entities that walk with Joe Jackson, I definitely think that Joe Jackson has very powerful energies around him that were very reasonable. I feel that he turned his back on them. I feel that he confused his intelligence for his intuition. And I feel that he participated in a lot of very trifling sort of sex. And we'll get into that later because we do have those questions on my list. But yeah, Joe Jackson was someone that for him, he worked hard. And when he was, when he worked hard, but when he did succeed at something, it was largely based on his luck. It wasn't based on him, being chosen because he was the best. It was like, this was lucky, But with that being said, he never understood his luck to be an anointing. So he, for example, envied people whose anointing looked differently than his. Especially with his children. That's what I hear. The monk nun card is speaking about him. It speaks about a person that lives a life of isolation, someone that is incredibly dedicated to being introspective, and they are committed to following what their intuition says to them. Joe Jackson is one of those people. However, again, I don't think that he was. I feel almost as though his spirits were able to speak to him most clearly when he was high or drunk. And I also feel that when he wasn't high or drunk, his own thoughts put such a tremendous amount of pressure on him that he would just act crazy, insanity, doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result. And, if he had been following his spirit, he would have had a different result. But here's the thing, he followed his intuitive guidance when it came to dealing with business partnerships, entrepreneurship, selling albums, and building platforms for his children. The Prince card speaks about Joe Jackson, again, being someone that's romantically charming. He uses his romantic charm to acquire money, status, and power. And he is very fickle and very shallow when you really get to know him. It's like, you wooed me with these great words. You took me out to dinner. You gave me some, bomb sex. And then, as soon as you got your nut, like, you handed me a sock to wipe myself up with. And then you said, there's some change on the dresser, and, I gave you a $5 credit towards your Uber. Like, he was like that, sort of Prince. But, it's a situation where Joe Jackson, on the surface, is a very beautiful man and very talented, but underneath was a very rotten core. Okay. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle my oracle cards to talk about the spiritual vibration around his energy 48 hours prior to his death. Give me just 1 second. Okay. Overall, Joe Jackson's energy was okay. I'm just gonna be honest. If you all can see the cards and you can read them for yourself, if you're wondering where these cards came from, no, you cannot purchase them. I made these cards myself. But anyway, his cards for his spiritual vibration are speaking largely about death. Death. And it's also talking about what's on his mind, being a marriage or him being in a relationship with somebody. But this is how it goes. The card for sex and intimacy is speaking about a sexual relationship that he had with a woman that couldn't rise to romance or emotional commitment. But I'm seeing that it didn't rise to romance or emotional commitment on his part. So if he was dealing with this woman, she's going to be grieving in this lifetime because, she never got him to commit. The challenge or obstacle is an overindulgence of sex, drugs, alcohol, or pain. And when I say pain, this is talking about he's addicted to being angry and creating havoc, or he is self-flagellating and always criticizes himself. So with that being said, these two cards together are speaking specifically about him on his deathbed, or him thinking about death and trying to figure out, if I live to see another day, am I going to be with this woman or not? underneath him is the card of karma, which speaks about a feeling of revenge that's driving him over a cliff. So in his last days, he was thinking about getting back at a lot of people. And in addition to that, this is kind of funny, but he's like, if I die, there are some bitches I gotta slap. So I hear that he will be trying to settle debts on the other side with people that he had problems with. To the left of him, I get the card for friendship, prayers, and healing. And this is speaking specifically about prayer that was needed to bring clarity to a friendship or a business relationship. So in his last, 48 hours, there was closure that he needed to bring to business partnerships and friendships. It didn't happen. And so he's going to reincarnate, and he's going to have to clear that karmic debt. My Baron Samyiti card is speaking about more infestation and troubled spirits. It's speaking about the spirits coming back to collect. Okay, so spirit is like your body's a vehicle. We gave you 89 years to rent this vehicle out. You got to return the keys. I get the card for the cemetery gate, and it's speaking specifically about bad habits guiding you to the graveyard and the gates of hell being open because of ancestral disrespect. So with that being said, Joe Jackson was not someone that venerated his ancestors or he worked with them. He was not someone that even listened to them and honored them. Joe Jackson, I wouldn't even say that his ancestors think that he's a joke or a disgrace, but much rather his ancestors have a very uneasy relationship with the idea of him being an important part of their bloodline legacy. It's a situation in which they say, we're very proud of the work that you've accomplished and the family that you built and how you passed down the bloodline, and you did a tremendous amount of work. But on yourself, the personal work, how he left his body, in a decent condition, but his soul before leaving this earth was not built with the character that his ancestors wanted him to have. And, on the other side, he'll have to deal with spiritual forces that keep divine order. Okay. All right. So with that being said, that was about Joe Jackson, and we're going to get into a couple of questions about him. So the first 3 Joe Jackson questions that we're going to be answering. What was the underlying reason he pushed for his children to succeed? Was he abused as a child? And how was he as a father and as a husband? Okay, I'm reading from my favorite tarot deck. It's called the Zombie deck, just in case you all are wondering. So the first question was, what was the underlying reason for him pushing his children to succeed? And, was that for himself? Oops. The second question was he abused as a child? And if so, what kind of abuse did he experience? The third question is, how was he as a father and as a husband? Please let me know in my comments if you've enjoyed this reading so far. Also, let me know if I should continue using my microphone or if you all just want to hear me the way that you all used to hear me. All right, so the first question was about why did he, what was the underlying reason he pushed his children to succeed? The underlying reason that he was pushing his children to succeed was largely related to his wife. It was something about like his wife and his marriage. I think that I'm very much led to believe that his wife influenced him into this idea that, like, we can have a family business. This career didn't work out for you, but honey, perhaps you should think about the children and us, using our kids to do this, get this done. She planted the seed for him. Now, I do very much feel very strongly that Joe Jackson was. It's almost like Spirit is like he wasn't. It wasn't a dance mom situation where he was trying to live through his kids. It was more like a slavery situation where his kids were the money makers, and he wanted to be the face of the money, those money makers. So it's like, if it's a Jackson 5, you need to know that I'm Joe Jackson and I created the Jackson 5. He wanted to be known. He wanted to be front and center. So his children were a vehicle for his success, but he was to be the emblem. His kids are, again, the vehicle, but he's the hood ornament on the car. So the Eight of Wands is specifically talking about him chasing his children down with belts, trying to get them to be obedient. The Page of Swords is speaking about the children seeing abuse in the household. And the Two of Cups is speaking about them sitting down, eating dinner all together like a family, as though nothing has happened. This is all letting me know that in terms of success, Joe Jackson felt that his children were his meal ticket. Two of Cups. All right. So the next question is the next question isn't the Justice card. I'm sorry. Was he abused as a child? If so, what kind of abuse? The abuse was sexual. It was sexual abuse. The Justice card is reversed. It's speaking specifically about the scales being out of balance. This is telling me that he was sexually abused by, it's talking about things being out of balance. In this regard, I'm hearing that these are inverted power relations between the sexes, meaning that it was a woman that was molesting him. Okay? It was a woman that was molesting him. And I am hearing that this woman was like an aunt, and she partied a lot, drank a lot. She may have also been married. And it's just like the crazy thing is that, I think that this woman and her husband sexually abused Joe Jackson. If it is an aunt, that's what I'm hearing. If it's one of Joe Jackson's aunts. Now, if it's not an aunt, it's someone that babysat him or took care of him while his parents were away at work, because I am hearing that he came from a two-parent household, and it's kind of like it's not even kind of, but it's definitely sexual abuse by an aunt or someone connected to his father, like to his father's side. And then we ask the question, how was he as a father? How was he as a husband? Now, we know in the public that he wasn't shit, but in either of those regards. But, I don't really know anything about Michael Jackson, none of the Jacksons. I'm a fan of Janet Jackson, but I wasn't a fan of Janet Jackson until I heard this song, Rock With You. Now, anyway, y'all can crucify me for that and take away my black card. Nevertheless, the Queen of Cups is speaking about his wife, and his wife she was bruised, battered, but she was a kept woman. Okay. She was bruised, she was battered, she was beaten. She was sold, if you get what I mean. And she kept it all together, and she enjoyed the spotlight. She enjoyed the trips, the luxury. As far as him as a father, he was terrifying for them. The children, almost to the degree that he was a monster. You know, it was like he would get into these fits of rage, you know, and honestly, it was like some of these were like drug induced. It's like, it wasn't even like a cocaine based substance, but it was more like he experimented with different substances. And then it's like he's walking around the house like barefoot, shirt off, like in a stupor, slamming shit, throwing shit, cussing people out, slapping them, and it was bad. And honestly, for the wife, the role that she played in it was just sometimes she's like blaming the children so that he doesn't get at her. The Three of Wands is speaking about police trying to intervene sometimes, but you know, guess what? They were around this time they were living in the hood. And what Spirit is showing me, they're showing me where it's like police officers try to knock on the door because they didn't heard a disturbance. But guess what? It's some black people fighting. They really just did not care wherever they lived. And I don't know where Michael Jackson is from. He could be from Illinois. He could be from Oklahoma, South Dakota. I don't know. But somebody leave it in my comments. I just like when y'all talk to me in my comments. But the point being that I'm sure of this, that if someone can look up some legal documents, go and do some searches for some legal documents, or they can, you know, find phone call records from when, you know, Michael Jackson and all those the other Jackson litter were, you know, young people. I think that you would see that there were a lot of, you know, house disturbances or police disturbances, or, you know, it's kind of like, you know, a police officer may have transcribed this in his notes or her notes and said, oh, there was a report of a disturbance, but, you know, I came to the home, everyone seemed fine. You know, the children were all in their room. It's like Joe Jackson made sure not to hit the children in the face, you know, let's put it that way. So that's how he was as a father. Other than that, you know, I think what you all have to see as far as the positive elements of how he was as a father, look at how successful his children are, financially successful, and they lived out their destinies. Now, I am hearing that some of them are mentally deranged, but at the end of the day, I mean, I have to give the story in its fullness, you know? You want to know why they're successful? That's why they're successful. You want to know why they act the way they do? That's why they do. You want to know how he is as a father? I hope I answered that question. All right. The next three questions. How did he meet his wife, and did they have real love? Why did he not make it as a boxer? How did he and his wife become Jehovah's Witnesses? And how faithful were they to the religion? Those are actually three questions, but some of them have like two parts to them. Hold on one second. Okay, so how did he meet his wife, and did they have real love? Well, his wife was somebody else's girlfriend, or his wife, let's put it this way. His wife and one of his friends had been intimate before. And I'm not sure if they were girlfriend, boyfriend, but they've had a soul. They've exchanged spiritual energy with one another. And the Temperance card is specifically speaking about them encountering one another on these very organic terms. They, met with one another, saw each other, via the mutual person that they both knew, and the relationship started from there. As far as did they have real love? Yes, there was real love between them. The real love between them is that Bonnie and Clyde love. If you watch Rihanna's We Found Love video, it's like that. It's that dangerous sort of thing where she's a good girl, a good Christian girl. I don't even know if she was Christian, but let me put it this way. She's like a good church raised girl, but at the same time, naive and uneducated and just in love with this fine man, this fine specimen that she saw. And him, he's built. I'm the shit and I'm an awesome guy. And he's like, hey, sweet thing, I'm gonna come to you in this jumpsuit. You smell this cool water cologne? Let me put it on you. And he put it on her better than his homeboy or his friend or this mutual friend that they both knew. And it is real love. It is a genuine, very dangerous love. It is one of those loves that it's like Evelyn and Chad Ochocinco. It's like Tina Turner and Ike Turner. It's like, I don't have another metaphor, but I was hoping that I could come up with the funny, and I didn't. All right, so off of that, they were really in love. All right, so why did he not make it as a boxer? The reason that he didn't make it as a boxer was because he truly wasn't passionate about it. Spirit is also saying that he was just getting whooped in the ring. It was kind of like, Joe Jackson talk shit. And when he would get into the ring with these guys, it wasn't like these guys are going hard just for the sport. These guys were really trying to just take him out. Now, the judgment card is speaking about him taking a very serious evaluation that he's building enemies in this industry. You're not building a positive reputation by winning matches. You're okay. You're decent. I don't know anything about boxing, so Spirit is telling me this. You're decent, but it's like, this isn't your calling. This isn't your destiny. Is this something that you're really passionate about? And so there were these other things on his mind. I feel that boxing for him, see, Joe Jackson's one of those people that he's all about strategy. He loves strategy. He loves chess. He loves backgammon. He loves, if he could play it, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. But with that being said, boxing for him was about strategy and beating the opponent. It was something that he intellectually liked, not something that he was good at. The Six of Swords speaks about his wife trying to keep other women at bay. I think when he was a boxer, when he was a boxer, he enjoyed the womanizing elements of it more than he did actually being a practicing boxer. Okay, his wife had to fend off other women. She was unsuccessful at it, and that was another thing that factored into it. She said to him, "Hey, you know what? You can make a lot of money with the kids. The kids are our meal ticket." And I hope this all makes sense. Okay. The next question is, how did they become Jehovah's Witnesses, and were they genuine to the religion? The Knight of Cups is speaking about Joe Jackson searching for more. And it's almost like Joe Jackson's one of those people that the way he was raised as an intellectual, or in an intellectual family, just around smart people. Okay. And they're also saying that Joe Jackson, in him, just going with the flow of his life, that becoming a Jehovah's Witness, it was helping him to further tap into those little whispers that he was hearing deep down inside. Okay. So the Knight of Cups is telling me that, he's going along, this very smooth ride, and things come crashing down for him spiritually. That's how and it's like when he couldn't succeed as a boxer, see, here's the thing, you know, he was picking up chicks, he was picking up women, but it's also like, you know, he's losing matches. So he's getting the loser vixens. He's not getting Evelyn Lozada. You know what I mean? He's getting, I'm trying to think. He's not getting Evelyn Lozada. He's getting Tamika Tiny Cottle. Anyway, but he was the one that pioneered for them to be Jehovah's Witnesses. The Seven of Hazards and the Wheel of Fortune, as far as were they genuine, it's like depending on the day and depending on how much money they had. Like, you know, when they were living good, it was like, praise God. But when things were bad, it was just like, them damn children, I gotta whoop their ass. So it just depends. But they were very faithful. They were committed. Yes. Did they believe? Were they believers? Yes. Did they believe in a doctrine? Yes. Did they follow it to the T? No. Okay. But it was a do as I say, but not as I do situation. Do you consider people like that to not be faithful to their religion? You know what I mean? Heck, there are lots of people that say, I'm gonna get up and I'm going to exercise today. All right. And they are committed to these sedimentary lifestyles. But they're like, I'm going to exercise. And they go out and they exercise, you know, that particular day. But just because they exercise that particular day, do you stop calling them sedimentary? That's the question. Anyway, that's probably not the best metaphor for that. But I'm not a religion scholar. I'm a scholar of African American studies and sociology. But, you know, that's a question for you all in the comments. All right. So the next 3 questions are, did he support the civil rights movement? What was his relationship like with Cheryll Terrell? And how did Cheryl and Katherine feel about each other? Hold on one second. All right, so the first question that I asked was, did he support or participate in the civil rights movement? Yeah, he marched. You know, he did his thing. You know, he was out there protesting a couple of times, and you know, he said, I mean, how do I put this? Joe Jackson was connected to some civil rights leaders. Joe Jackson he cared. Joe Jackson was out there when he could be, but Joe Jackson was about that money. All right. And honestly, if a white person, if it was a 1,000,000-man march and Joe Jackson was supposed to be the 1,000,000th man, y'all was only going to have 999,000. All right. Because Joe Jackson was down there at the whites only. He was in the whites only section of the 1960s Starbucks signing a business deal. All right. That's who he was. That's how he is. And then he'll come back to you as a 1,000,000th man in the last 15 minutes and be like, I'm so glad to be here. And I'm so glad to be black. Joe Jackson was about that money, but he was also about black empowerment. But again, Joe Jackson is about self first. So I hope that makes sense. The Four Swords is speaking about him targeting the white community, him wanting to capitalize off the white community, him also having some uneasy feelings about them and just feeling like they're evil. The Six of Hazards is speaking about him wanting to use his kids and promote them for the white gaze to make money from white people. The Three of Wands is speaking about him trying to break new barriers in this industry, him having a very sincere interest in overcoming obstacles, making new achievements on the basis of his blackness. I wouldn't say that he was a race scholar, and I definitely wouldn't call him a Black Panther. But he, as far as the civil rights movement, he cared about Black empowerment because it meant empowerment for him. If he were white, he wouldn't give a shit about Black empowerment. The end. Okay, so the next question is, how did his relationship with Cheryll Terrell start? Well, I think they may have a child together or something, but it started from the King of Hazards is telling me this relationship, and the Page of Cups is talking about the Cheryll Terrell. Look, this is. I wouldn't be surprised if this Cheryll Terrell person, in all of her scandalousness, she's been with Joe Jackson and another one of the male Jacksons. I wouldn't be surprised if Cheryl made it to one of the kids and then made it to Joe. But that's just my opinion. That's not my opinion. That's just what I'm intuiting from these cards. The Six of Swords is speaking about her being a mistress. It's like she knew that Katherine was the wife. She had to infiltrate this situation. She did it in a very creative and discreet way. I don't know if there's some off age differences between, like, if it's like, by the time Cheryl was introduced into these people's into this three-way situation, maybe Cheryl was like 38 and one of the sons was like 19. I don't know, but I just see a kid. I see her. If they don't have a child together, I do think that this relationship started through the children, and then she got to Joe Jackson. With Joe Jackson, he was a womanizer. It's like his hands. It's not even like Cheryl was somebody he chose, but it's like Cheryl was somebody that just stuck around. Like, she had that Lil' Kim spirit. Like, I'm loyal. You're going to remember me. You're not going to just deal with me one time. I am here to stay. Sort of thing. Now, how did Cheryl and Katherine feel about each other? The Ten of Cups is speaking about Katherine felt like Cheryl was. She didn't feel like Cheryl was a threat. She's like, look, as long as my vacations don't end, my family can stay together. We can stay married. You stay in your place. Okay. Don't call here with none of that bull. That's how it is. Like, but Katherine also is like, she puts on a mask of like, I keep it all together sort of thing. But she can get nasty. The Four of Hazards is speaking about, the husband, Joe Jackson, being caught in the middle of a beef between these two women. So there were definitely times where I think they worked together to figure out where he was. Like, he ain't with you? No, girl. He ain't with you? Oh, bye. And then they just hang up with each other. It's a mess. It's like they had they were sister wives. Okay, the Eight of Cups, I'm sorry, not the Four. The Eight of Cups is speaking about every time Cheryl tried to leave this three-way situation alone, Katherine would provoke her. Like, I won, sort of thing. And then Cheryl would come back. Katherine was very territorial, and Cheryl was determined, she was ambitious, and she had a goal. All right, that's how I hear it. The Queen of Swords is coming out, and then the Two of Swords. These two cards together are speaking about, specifically, they're describing Katherine as the Queen of Swords. They're saying that Katherine pretty much regulated this situation. So if this was a polyamorous relationship, I would definitely say that Katherine kept things in check, and Katherine, you know, Katherine knew how to keep Cheryl out of the public eye. Katherine knew how to keep Cheryl in the dark. Katherine knew how to keep Cheryl with, you know, a little bit of money and a wet booty. But, you know, Joe Jackson definitely didn't stay over there. But, you know, he had a 48-hour time limit before he couldn't come back home. All right. The Ten of Wands and the Queen of Hazards is speaking about Cheryl trying to juggle a lot. Like, I feel that Cheryl had her own children, her own responsibilities. I also wouldn't be surprised if Cheryl tried to mother some of the children as well to just try to piss off Katherine. It's like this is a catty situation. It's just like I'm talking about instances of things that they've done to each other. It's grimy, just to like send the message to the other woman that I'm stronger than you. I'm more persuasive than you. I have a better position than you, sort of thing. The Queen of Hazards is speaking specifically about what's her name? Cheryl. And Cheryl is just she never won this battle. She never won the battle. She always lost the wars. And, you know, but here's the thing. She sat comfortably. She was better. She was financially better off dealing with Joe Jackson than she was than being an independent woman. Okay, so I didn't tell you all the questions that I was going to ask because these questions are particularly juicy a little bit, kind of, sort of, but not really. But the next questions are, you know, we're going to talk about Joe Jackson's relationship with Gordy, Diana Ross, and Quincy Jones. So I'm going to pull one card for each to just figure out, you know, how did he feel about each of these people? So Diana Ross. With Diana Ross, they had a very, very close friendship, very good friendship with each other. But I'm also hearing that he and Diana Ross may not be as, you know, I know that he's passed, but I'm not quite sure if their friendship lasted throughout the years of his career. So with that being said, they were very, very close. I am hearing that she was like, you know, a big sister to him. She kept him grounded. She looked out for him in the industry. She also looked out for her children. She respected his music and his artistry. He wanted to have sex with her. You know, they did oral with each other, and you know, I mean, it was a good thing for, you know, for what it was. But definitely a good partnership, a very good business relationship between them. And I think that he was very soft and vulnerable with her. He looked out for her. That was his girl. Now with Gordy, Barry Gordy, mixed relationship. It's like it depends on the day with them, but because things were always changing in Barry Gordy's life. Barry Gordy, he was either up or he was down. Career was up, career was down. He's in it or he's not. And with Barry Gordy, it's like, I think that Barry looked at Joe Jackson kind of like, oh, you're, more successful than me. You're a good dude. And Joe Jackson looked at Barry's like, you're a good dude as well, but you don't, it's kind of like, I think that Barry Gordy and Joe Jackson were real cool, but they didn't do business with each other like that because of, what's his name? I'm sorry. Joe Jackson's business practices it's not that he will give you an unethical business deal. But he's definitely not against making an unethical or sealing an unethical or closing an unethical business deal. So with he and Barry Gordy, it's like they definitely womanized together. So they checked out women, they enjoyed women together. They enjoyed parties, a couple of drugs. But yeah, with Barry Gordy, they kind of steered clear of each other with contracts and such. But I'm not really hearing like real animosity, but it's kind of like, oh, this is my homie. Now, Quincy Jones, in the beginning, they were cool. But as time passed by, Quincy Jones is someone, and this is what I'm hearing. Quincy Jones is someone, he's very intuitive. He will accept you for who you are. It's like if you're a rat, he'll accept you as a rat, but he ain't gonna treat you like an eagle. And Joe Jackson felt very entitled, and it's like Quincy Jones, it's like, I feel like they fell out over money, and I feel like they fell out over like not just money, but also like Joe Jackson's lifestyle or his personality. I think that they have been cordial with one another, as most men typically are. It wasn't like I'm gonna fight you on sight sort of thing. But he and Quincy Jones, it's like they did good work together. But Joe Jackson couldn't keep up his end of the bargain. Like he didn't work on his character enough. So it's like as the money started coming in, the success started flowing, the fame started coming in. It's like he got more unethical. He was more flexible towards the dark side of things, and Quincy Jones played around with that a little bit, like on the periphery, but not as deep as Joe Jackson was. So that drove a wedge between them. Read between the lines. All right. So in his passing, as of right now, does Joe Jackson approve of or like even, in his lifetime, does he disapprove of how his children have treated each other? Does he disapprove? The Nine of Swords is speaking about, him wanting like his children to be healers to each other, but at the same time, he kind of gets a good laugh out of like the stuff that goes on with them. Kind of like, y'all are grown, this. It's like they if they come to him with problems, he'll tell them that y'all are grown, y'all will deal with this, and he will also ask for them to like tell him what went down, and he will laugh, like such as if Janet is like, Michael said that Michael said that, I was ugly, or Michael said that I couldn't sing, or Michael said I need to stop whispering on my tracks. Or if LaToya called her, Joe Jackson, she was like, Dad, can you believe I'm on The Apprentice? And Nene, she called me Casper and said, bye, ghost. Goodbye, ghost. He would laugh. He'd be like, ha, 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 ha. So Joe Jackson's kind of, I don't know. He was not friendly towards his children. The Eight of Swords is speaking about his heart. Like, it's not like he was an open-hearted man. He operated with his children with his gut. And so, like, that means for me that when his children are beefing with each other, it's entertainment. It's not even like this is my bloodline. It's like, these are my friends, and I'm not judging. It's just hard for me to describe this because I'm illustrating how his mind works. It's like, this is fun. They're sparring. You know, I hope this one takes this one out. But he does have favorites. He played them up. It was favoritism, and it was keeping up shit to make them more competitive with each other. He has a very capitalist mindset. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Gemini. Queen of Wands is telling me that he cared. There was a daughter that he cared a lot about. And it was like, don't allow anything to happen to her. Don't mess with her. That's my baby. I don't know which of them it is. I don't know the Jacksons. Let me see. Which one of these? Who was it? Who did he care? What Jackson did he care for? What girl was that? It was Rebby Jackson that he really cared about. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, as far as the beefing goes between all of them, how does he feel? It was good entertainment. If he got a laugh out of it, it was great. They're grown. He doesn't see himself as the problem. He doesn't feel that he failed them as a parent. He feels like, I prepared for them to defend themselves in a cold, harsh world, and sometimes, you know, my kid's gonna be fucked up. You just gotta expect them to be fucked up, and then you know, for them to show you otherwise. That's how he operates. All right, so was Joe envious of Michael? Joe was envious of Michael. Yes. The Emperor card is speaking about, as when Michael Jackson was young, he was very protective of Michael from others in the industry. But then it was like, once he started to see Michael was getting hot, you know, it was like, he's a star. You know, a lot of people like him. He did get envious of that because people were starting to think that Michael's talent was organic and that Michael's talent wasn't inspired or even, you know, could even be attributed to his father's teachings and upbringing, and you know, his childhood upbringing. So that did piss off Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson, you know, fed Michael to the wolves. He was like, you know what, if you're popular, I'm gonna just put you in these terrible positions, these terrible predicaments, and see if you break. And Joe felt that and it's weird, he's like, you know, if Michael's getting all this attention, I want attention. Well, let me give him more attention, as a way to make, you know, kind of trying to see if Michael would break under pressure. And then Michael kept getting better. More money started rolling in. Joe repeats the process. It's like, well, it's a win-win situation for him. If Michael breaks, then Joe gets to say, like, okay, I won. You know, my son is not better than me. But if Michael turns into a diamond under pressure, then he makes money. The Lover's card is speaking about him being envious of the attention that he got from young girls. So when Michael was a young boy, Joe Jackson was envious of the attention that he got from young girls that were underage, because Joe Jackson, like, young. Anyway, so the Six of Hazards is speaking about him always always telling Michael he's not good enough, always saying, like, you'll never be me, you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna do that. And then, like, but boy, you got to get better, you got to get out there, you got to practice, you have to sing for 18 hours, you have to dance, you got to shake your ass in this rhythm, and you got to keep your afro on point and sleep with your scarf. It's like he told him all of these things simply because he was like, you know what, I want my son to crack under pressure. I hope he cracks under pressure, but if he doesn't, he's gonna make me some money. And Michael Jackson did really want to be famous, and Joe knew that. Joe knew that Michael had a very genuine desire to be famous, and Joe milked it and manipulated it. The next question I'm going to ask was submitted by my friend Marcus. He wants to know, did Joe Jackson die 2 days after Michael Jackson because he still doesn't want Michael to shine? Spirit is saying that. Spirit says no. Spirit is like, look, we called him down on that day because it was supposed to be divinely orchestrated. The Ace of Hazards is talking about, look, it was the start of a new partnership. He signed a contract before he got here that he was supposed to die at that age on this particular day. The Knight of Cups is speaking about things for him being upside down. You know, it's like the light was dim, you know, charming, inspirational, that cold, you know, he could be charming, inspirational, but he was for the most part cold-hearted. It means that, you know, this is the end for him. And then the Nine of Hazards in reverse in this particular deck is speaking about, you know, the end of the marketplace. The marketplace is the marketplace. Okay, women rule the marketplace. The marketplace is feminine energy, but the market is known as the physical plane or the mundane male energy. So it's the ending. So these two cards together are saying it's the ending of that male energy being that energy existing on this astral plane. I mean, on this physical plane. And so the spirits came to collect their just desserts. And no, he was not trying to outshine Michael Jackson's by dying. So the rest of this, I'm going to start using my pendulum. So just to explain it to you all, I'm going to be reading from my spirit board, and if I talk like this, that means that I am just repeating the words as I hear them. So my pendulum swings, and when it swings, it'll hit a letter. And when it touches a letter, I can hear the word. Okay. So for the rest of this reading, I'm just going to ask questions, and then my spirit board is going to speak. And if anything is unclear, I will explain it. All right. So the first question was, who is Joe Jackson's favorite child? Spirit is saying Tito. Who is his least favorite child? Spirit is saying Michael. Spirit is saying Michael Jackson. All right. Now, this question was submitted by a YouTube subscriber, Viola Nelson. Does Michael have unresolved issues with Joe? And is he going to resolve it with him on the other side? The voice speaks. Michael has issues with his father. It says, and will deal with him. It says on the other side. Absolutely. Period. It says they will. It says talk through their. It says issues with each other. It says before Joe is sent to. It says retrain himself for. It says reincarnation. It says Michael. It says Michael wants to. It says send. It says his father. It says off into the next lifetime with wisdom. It says acquired that will help him to become an ancestor. Period. So this is the most that I can tell you all. Michael and Joe will have a conversation, and they're going to talk about a lot. Now, what Spirit has revealed to me, the little droplet of tea that I can give you, Michael Jackson is going to give Joe a very honest rundown of what it was like being his child. And Joe will have no choice but to be open-hearted, because on that plane, I don't even think he has control over that energy. Like is going to hit him. Everything's going to touch him. That moment is important because in Joe Jackson's next lifetime reincarnating, he will need to tap into that ancestral bank of knowledge that Michael gave to him on the other side so that he can live a better lifetime. He can live a better life in his next reincarnation, because he will have children again, and he will need Michael's advice to help him deal with his next litter of children. All right. A question was submitted by 3 Buckhead. Did he sexually abuse LaToya and Rebby like LaToya alleged in the 1990s? It says he was extremely. It says he was extremely abusive and touched them inappropriately. It says would. It says feel them. It says would fill them up. It says with. It says drugs, and it says take advantage. It says of them. Period. All right, so the next question is also from 3 Buckhead. It is, why did he want his kids to call him Joe instead of father? It says, the voice speaks, he felt, it says they would better deal with him as a businessman than as a father. He made, it says an extremely clear division between fathering and business, period. When he would father them, they were subject to, it says seeing, it says him hit, it says the mother, Katherine, or it says see a sibling, it says beaten for, it says disobedience, it says but, it says for the most part, he chose to be it says a manager to his offspring. Period. So he didn't allow them to call him that because in his mind he was like, look, if you call me dad, you're gonna get soft. You got to remember, this business is cold. This business is tough, and I'm gonna show you how tough it is. So when he was beating them, he was like, I'm doing this as your father because I'm a businessman. But like I said before, if he doesn't do business with you, you're not a friend to him. So imagine if you don't do business with him, he ain't family to you. That's the thing. So sorry for getting all hype, y'all. I'm sorry. So I may be pronouncing this incorrectly, but it's Rhyse, Rhyse or Rhyse Davis. Did he sell his kids to other men, especially the boys? The pendulum says, it says molestation ring, period. That's all it says. Anything else? Any other information about this? It says we don't. It says speak. It says about this. It says in great detail because this is a very esoteric and it says deep. It says deep matter, period. It says we will not speak about this again, period. All right. So, from Danny Nicole, did Joe teach Jermaine to apply so much grease to his face? How did that come about? The greasiness. It says, it says he, they're talking about Jermaine, he thinks this works for his appearance in his favor and likes the texture, and it says way the light, it says bounces off his face. It says his father did not teach him this caretaking practice. It says a behavior he acquired through his own development, period. All right. This has been my Joe Jackson reading. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Please go to www.blackspectrumnetwork.com and purchase a private psychic reading. Please make sure that you go to my Patreon. That's patreon.com/Black Spectrum Network. Thank you all that have been so patient with me and helping me to grow this channel. If you've watched this video this long, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please like this video, share this video, comment on this video. Please share this video with somebody in your spiritual family. And with all that being said, thank you all for the tremendous amount of support you've given to me. For real, for real. And please let me know if I should continue using the microphone or not. And yeah, that's been it. I don't know anything about Joe Jackson. If anything was inaccurate that I said, please leave it in the comments. But always remember, the truth is collaborative. Bye. Homes now, we're standing on the rugged ground. It's a shame that I feel bad for them, but so glad for us. We have each other, and I just want this to last. Forget